Go.
Welcome to a
Why do you
new.
think I started?
I saw your
Sorry.
mouse
I shouldn't
hover
be
over
laughing. This is not meant to be funny. All right, this is
Yeah.
very serious.
and very quick. Not very quick.
Quick-witted.
Quick for us, but not quick for anyone else in any universe. But this is a new thing,
My God,
which I said would be a cool idea if we did it, and Harry took that upon himself and did it. So we're here now.
I want to point out, I did not get the impression that Tyler thought it was a good idea until today. When he brought it up, he was very actually like, I feel like I should do something like this, but it would suck.
So we're here to test that theory, and you're here watching it, and we want to see how you feel about it.
Well, it did give me a good idea, and the idea is to a type of video where we go through the weapons on as objectively as we can, and on a mod by mod basis. We're going to go through every mod and every overclock, but the idea is that we do not really discuss them. We're supposed to give sort of a rating, and it's supposed to result in us actually, as objectively as we can, which might not be that objective to some people.
Yeah.
What really needs tweaking for weapons? Sort of bring us to, it's like if we just did a podcast where we were just talked about what we think needs buffing or nerfing, it would be so much more wishy-washy. And even if this isn't very true to what most people at Ghost Ship thinks, I thought this would actually be sort of almost let us know what we actually think needs buffing or nerfing.
Yeah, and this
pretty cool.
While it's technically not a tier list or really anything to do with the tier list, it came kind of made me feel like we should do something like this because of the tier list. Because we kind of decided that S tiers are weapons that have no flaw even in mods. Like every mod has its place, and I thought that was just a gut instinct type logic, and it was. We didn't check that theory, but that is essentially what this is going to be. It's going to be us trying to gather, at least for this time, as you probably can tell by the title, just the engineers primaries, since we always start with engineers and we always start with primaries. What mods are good or bad, and that includes, it should include, but overclocks as well. But it really is more mods, right? I
would say this is more about the mods.
Overclocks.
Yeah.
It's nothing new, but I think not enough people talk about mods and their placement in the game, and how much effect they have on weapons.
Well, I should say it's more about mods. I would say that is more what's going to make this series, if it becomes a series, more valuable. Not because mods are necessarily primary focus. I would say it's probably joint. It might actually lean more towards the mods. They probably spend more time on them because there are more of them. But I do view that as sort of one of the main reasons to do this, which is so we can cover the mods. There's not really a good way of, a really interesting way of doing that, I don't think, covering mods. And this might be the closest we can get to a video that sort of does that. Because no one's ever going to want to watch or do a tier list on the weapon mods, right?
Yeah.
This is probably a really good way of actually talking about those. Maybe one of the only good ways. But obviously we do have a ranking system.
Sorry.
Let's point out how bland this slide looks in comparison to everything else.
This is not going to be the most entertaining video in the world. We can't pretend to you that it will be, but we hope that this is going to be quite actual and just kind of help us develop our opinions more in a quick way, and maybe help the devs a little bit if they're unsure as to what mods need a little bit more attention, at least in our review, of course.
Assuming that people do agree with us, and I guess the idea of sharing the actual resulting tables would be weird. I don't know if that would work, but I would be interested still to know how people feel about them. And I don't know if leaving next comments is right, but that might be not necessarily time to decide that. But I definitely want to see comments about whether or not people agree. I do want to know if people agree or not, because that's going to be somewhat important.
If we put your favorite mod, which if you have one of them, that's kind of weird, Chan.
If we say that it's unusable.
If we say that it's and you've got the thingies out right now, right? Because we probably should.
Yeah, so we got 1 out of 5. So it's a rating of 1 to 5. 1 out of 5 is unusable. I don't know if we should explain what those mean.
basically, this is essentially under no circumstances, literally like none. This is not worth picking. It's like it is
I
not.
should say it leans more towards downgrade too, because 2 out of 5 being
Yeah,
suboptimal is never going to be a downgrade, but will probably be worse than every other option.
yeah,
But it's not. Yeah, 2 out of 5 suboptimal is probably probably the most abstract one, but there will be some 2 out of 5s.
yeah.
Actually, there'll probably be less 1 out of 5s, to be fair, but the 1 out of 5s will be more obvious. At
Yeah,
least.
it'll be like known mods that are like throw picks, basically. Like like the tier 2 boomstick situation. I don't think I really need to explain it since Lazy maybe covered it. Everyone knows that if you want to shoot quicker, or like if you want to reload quicker, use the shoot quicker one. The reload one is literally worse. That'll be a 1 for an
Yeah,
example of that.
yeah.
But yeah, obviously we're not going to go that today, but I have no idea what we're going to really be in store for. But yeah,
No. This is also a I guess a trial run of this type of video. Haven't done something exactly like it before, so we'll see where it goes.
Yeah.
But 3 out of 5, which is balanced, which I guess is an odd word to use, but
yeah,
it's basically ideal.
Yeah, that is where essentially most, if not all, mods would be in an ideal game. In the best case scenario, all of the mods are as good as each other and are all viable for different reasons, right? That is the ideal world, and that is what 3 kind of represents.
But we don't live in an ideal world.
No. In some worlds, we have 4s, which are strong picks. Like, just kind of going to be better to pick, right?
I feel like 4 out of 5s will actually come up more often in tiers with only 2 choices. That might be proven false, but I use the word optimal.
4 and 2s.
Yeah, it's 4 out of 5. It's optimal. It's just one where it's the best idea, like it's the best choice, but it's not broken either.
Which is why 5 is the interesting part. In that 5 is just as bad as 1.
I kind of point out. So 5 out of 5 is too strong, and I imagine it's actually probably going to come up more with overclocks as well. To be honest, too strong. I imagine. But yeah, it's just things are too strong, and you've probably got some pretty obvious examples in mind of what might end up being too strong. I don't know if I actually not sure if any will come up today. I don't think so, but we'll see. So that's our rating system. Let us know what you think about the rating system. Actually, don't. I don't want to know. I don't want...
Yeah. But yeah, I think we should start because I think we'll develop it a little bit more even for ourselves if we.
Yes, that's true. I mean, the rating system it would be ideal if it didn't have to change, right? Yeah. But this is also a test run. But there's no way of doing like what's the test run going to be? Just one weapon? That's not covering enough ground. But also, we didn't want to do the whole thing because I never thought this would have made sense as like every weapon in one video. That never made sense to me.
Yeah.
And it also means that it could have just flopped and we would have put a lot of effort into it and it would have been no fun. But also with the rating system, when it comes to what we want, I think we sort of agree that actually 2, 3, and 4 is where everything has to be, basically, for the game to be balanced. Everything being 3 out of 5 is probably unrealistic, but everything 2, 3, or 4 is realistic and is like arguably necessary.
Like it is like 2 and 4 you're looking at like can be used under very like 2 is like can be used under very specific scenarios but generally not that useful, and 4 is like generally very useful, hard to justify picking anything else, but it's still you can pick other things. Like they are like fine things to have in the game, very difficult things to remove, I imagine, right? Like they're kind of so nuanced that it would be difficult to kind of tackle each one in the dev point of view. But yeah, it's going to be the 1s and 5s that are go ship, get on this.
Yes, and I want to point out that sort of just emblemizing how objective we're trying to be in that I don't have a problem with 5 out of 5s, but for the purposes of this video or these videos, 5 out of 5s are going to be treated. There's the same level of problem as 1 out of 5s. If our goal is to evaluate the balance of the game or how viable things are. It might be how, I'm not actually sure what the title's going to be. I think it might be how balanced are engineers' primaries or something, or how viable. I'm not sure. Balance might be the right word because we got that as our 3 out of 5 as what we want to go for. But getting all that out of the way, and I assume we won't have to go through that really at all again. That's just for this video, hopefully, unless we have to make any major changes. We can get to it. Start, and maybe if there's been any sort of things that maybe you don't understand about what we're doing, maybe even we don't understand exactly what we're doing. It'll probably become clear once we get started. Starting with our boy, the WH Hog man, the Warthog Auto 210. Right.
I think you're going to show the chart, right, to know what.
You think I should show it before?
Yeah, just to know what because this will not be on the screen all the time. But this is what we're going to be working with to kind of consolidate, make sure we don't lose track of that kind of stuff, and we'll show you it at the end.
This is the database.
That's going to be the little where our numbers are going to be going into the statistics. But Harry, if you want to put over to what Carl, I assume.
Carl.
This is going to be the actual visual aid, because to be honest, I don't even know all the mods off by heart.
No. I don't know the mods off by heart. I can roughly imagine what the mod selection looks like for any given weapon, but I couldn't list every single one. Also, I really wish I knew who made this website, because, first of all, whoever they are is literally a god. Even if it's more than one, I assume it's probably could be more than one person. I do want to know who they are, though, because I genuinely want to credit them just in general. I would even want to send them a personal thanks. I would send them money, right? But if they are somehow watching, or if this ever reaches them, I do want to just say thanks for this website. It's a fucking incredible resource. It
is thanks to people like you, like people that make stuff like this, that the game is where it's at, right? It is as thriving and as loved as it is.
It's probably one of the coolest, wiki community resources I've seen for a game.
Yeah.
So big up there. But anyway, actually getting to what we're doing. So we look at tier 1. Option 1, supercharged feed mechanism. Actually, I should just hover over it. +1 rate of fire, which I immediately go to 3.
It just sounds like a 3. Just a solid. Yeah.
But
but is that good?
No. But this is the case where I wouldn't say this is a 4, but I would actually say this could be a 2, because I do think this is better.
Yeah, but not an unhealthy amount by any means. It's just that one falls behind. So I think we're looking at a 3 and a 2. And a simple way of doing it would be to just increase the amount of ammo gained in the mag, I think, by another 1 or 2, and that should equal it out, right?
Well, it should be 2, I guess, shouldn't it? I would argue possibly. No, we didn't get into a discussion like that. What I was about to do. Tier 2, though. Expanded ammo bags +42 max ammo.
Woof.
I think I'm going to immediately jump to optimal, and we're going to go through each tier, and then I'll put in the ratings basically into the chart. Yeah. So I would go for 4.
Considering it's at 90, that's a lot of ammo.
Go from 90 to 142. Loaded shells +2 pellets per shot. I would give a 3.
Probably a 3, yeah. It doesn't seem too strong or too weak.
It's definitely not hard to justify, and there are some builds where it really works out, but this is still optimal more often than not.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we have choke in tier 2 as well, alongside a hefty damage and ammo increase. Unfortunately, choke, you're definitely a 2. This is actually going to be one of the more difficult ones, though, because it's not a throw pick, but in regards to the Warthog, it's a very, very weak option in comparison to the first 2 in this tier.
Yeah, and the amount of ammo you gain or damage you gain, it just can't equate to more accuracy.
And right? if we want to, establish what changes need to be made, I do think choke needs to be changed or possibly moved somewhere else. Which is why, for the purposes of this, 1 might not be an incorrect rating.
Yeah, I mean, let's think about it. In any given situation,
even with like something like magnetic pellet alignment, where you want to like if you want to double down on something like that, or if you want to alleviate the effects of cycle overload, it's never enough where ammo or damage aren't easily a better pick. It's never good enough. So
I think this is
and that's it. Never good enough. You know.
Yeah. No matter what, it is not something worth picking, and that's definitely a 1. That would define a 1.
Good. So I'm surprised we got 1 that quickly, but not a problem. It's actually, this is what this is for. You know. Yeah, I don't necessarily know where everything's going to be going in. Okay. Yeah. Tier 3 recoil dampener times 0.4 recoil, which I would immediately jump to.
I'm thinking 3 to 2.
I was going to say 3. I'm going to say 3.
Inherently wrong with it. Yeah.
I'm saying 3.
I think if you struggle with the recoil, it's got its place.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it's good in general, especially with something like this where you decrease reload time, or just cycle overload, where you might want better recoil. Same with magnetic pellet alignment. It's actually, and it's consistently good anyway.
3.
Quick fire ejector, minus 0.5 seconds reload speed. Also a 3.
How much is the reload speed?
2 seconds, so it actually takes off a quarter. Which is it's noticeable in the Warthog, and it's really nice for pretty much every build. Even if you want to double down on it, it still feels like very good. So I'm going to say 3 as well. I think those are very equal. And actually, in this tier, we have another one that is just +2 magazine size again. But in this tier, I consider it balanced, or more. Actually, sorry, I don't think I do. I would say the only time I use that is with cycle overload. Which
I don't know. It's not as bad because it's only really tackling, like, all of that's tackling kind of sustained damage, right? Being more accurate with reducing the recoil, reload taking less time, having more ammo. They all kind of tackle the same thing of being more reliable in the use of the weapon. I think maybe it could do with an extra ammo in it, but I think it definitely could contend if it wanted to.
I think the Warthog, there's an argument to bump the base magazine size up too, but possibly get rid of one of these. Maybe this one.
I think it has more of a place there than in tier 1. I think I think reload speed and ammo is always an expanding ammo like capacity, like in mags, is always a kind of nice thing. I like sitting next to each other.
I'm just saying it's rarely it rarely makes sense to take it over one of these two. Yeah, which is why I'm still going to go for 2. I think 3-3-2 is fairly reasonable.
3-3-2, yeah.
Right, cool beans. 3-3-2. Okay. Tier 4 though. Tier 4, I might just go straight for the jugular and actually say 3-3. So we got tungsten coated buckshot, which is +400 armor breaking, which for some people might be underrated. I underrated it for a while. And we got bigger pellets, which is +1 damage per pellet. Actually, quite significant. It's only +1. That's +2 pellets, but that's more than. Well, I mean, they're kind of weird to put side by side, but still, these two, armor breaking is very good on a weapon like the Warthog. It's also very good in general.
Works, first of all.
Yes, it does. First of all, it does work, and it makes it feel really great, right? The Warthog has no way of increasing weak point damage aside from a specific overclock. So you're not missing out on that by taking tungsten coated buckshot. And in a weapon where you're not going to be hitting weak points as consistently because it has a spread of bullets, of pellets, this is actually more likely to increase your damage because the chances of you hitting every pellet on a weak point are very low. But increasing damage is always a good thing. So this is a case where I think they're actually very equal. It just sort of depends on the type of damage you want to deal, or really just preference, because they're really not that much different at all. Right, so I'm comfortable with 3. Yeah, are you comfortable with 3 and 3?
A healthy either or. I feel like this might be something that might come down to people's preference, but that's good, right? Like if some people fight for the armor breaking, some people fight for the damage, then we know they're definitely 3, right? Like if it equals out, it's fine.
Yeah. Tier 5, however, for me, might not end up being much different, actually. But we have Turret Whip. I'm not going to read that. We all understand Turret Whip. It uses 5 turret ammo. I guess we should point that out. And it's a 160 area damage, which is enough to kill slashes in one shot.
Yeah.
So it inflicts fear and stun, and has a lot of armor breaking. So we got the turret whip.
I think as much as I want to keep this to our opinion, I know another YouTuber, definitely thinks that it is laughable how much better turret whip is to the other option, in their opinion. That they think that turret whip is literally like, he would put that as, or I don't know about if he put that as a 5, but he definitely put the other one as a 1. Like, because if you think about it, the sheer level of value you gain from turret whip cannot be compared to the other one. Which obviously is the automatic one, right?
Makes it fully automatic and adds 0.5 rate of fire.
Yeah, like it makes you shoot the shotgun more faster, which is nice. If you want to use the shotgun primarily, it is preferable. But you can't deny the fact that like the amount of like damage, AOE, stun, fear, armor breaking, all of that stuff that you lose in picking that.
I think minor adjustments is a very, very good mod still, and I'm thinking though, on a technicality, turret whip might be optimal, because of how strong it is. But I think this is very, very usable. So my ratings would actually be 4 and 3.
I think that is fair. Although,
because even though it seems that way, I don't think this tier actually represents an issue of balance. I think it's actually way more balanced than people think. This might be more convenience than anything, but I don't think that's I don't think that's irrelevant. I don't think that makes it. I don't think you could just pass that off. I think that means something still.
Yeah, but there is still a genuine gameplay element to.
There's a disparity. There's a disparity, but I don't think there's a big issue here, which is why 4 and 3 makes sense to me.
I think 4, 3. There is a little bit of work to be done there, but nothing unhealthy for the game.
Yeah, as in I wouldn't call it a priority.
No, by no means.
But you could still tweak it in some way. But now we get to overclocks. Or the Warthog. Which is Warthog and the Zukos are the only weapons in the game to only have 5 overclocks.
Right.
Yeah, make what you will of that. Anyway, sorry. Okay, so we start with our boy Stunner, which means that you can now stun on any body part instead of just weak points, and increases damage against stunned enemies by 30%.
I really like this one.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely not any 2 or below. It has entirely purpose, right? So it's at least a 3. But I also don't think it's a must pick, since you don't even like it and you don't think it's that good. So I think it's just a 3.
It's far from a must pick, and I definitely don't think it's optimal. But it is a clean that adds 2 noticeable benefits, which is interesting that it doesn't go that far, in my opinion. Which is why I'm gonna type in 3. No matter what. Lightweight magazines, plus 18 max ammo, minus 0.4 seconds reload time. Now, I was tempted to say optimal. I was tempted to give it a 4 out of 5. But I really don't know, actually.
Well, do you think it's you kind of have to pick it? It's too strong, or do you think it's just nice? It's good. It's like a healthy choice.
It's a very, very strong choice, in that it adds ammo, which actually can alleviate certain issues of tier 2, and it also increases reload time. It is like a clean in the sense of it's one of those ones that adds something that mods add, but it's actually a really good one of those. It's not a 5. It's not a 2.
Yeah, it's not a 5. It's definitely not weak. So it would be between 3 or 4. It depends on the reason why
I think it might be optimal is because it there's nothing you have to do to, like, I guess, use it, right? There's nothing you have to help it with. I think there are things you kind of have to do maybe with these two, even that you kind of don't with lightweight magazines. It's as in, well, it's never a bad pick, but I don't know if that means it's optimal. But yeah, it's always a good pick. Like Stunner doesn't help against like certain enemies, for example, right? You got oppressors and like pretty much all bosses, and robots.
There are strengths and weaknesses, but yeah,
lightweight magazines has no weaknesses and just helps in every scenario essentially.
Yeah.
So I'm leaning towards 4 actually.
Yeah, I mean, I've no, I can't give myself strong takes for most engineer stuff, but I don't know. Yeah, I think it seems fine. Like it seems healthy at the very least. So
it's going to be like, oh, it's always like, I don't know what one to use. Okay, just use that then, because it's not going to change anything. It's only going to improve your play style, no matter what it is. It's not going to make any significant changes. So
yeah,
I'm happy with 4. Like, so actually, I think because that's something that we should be comfortable with. We discussed that, but 4 isn't necessarily a big problem either.
Yeah.
So that's all right. Okay, move on though. Magnetic pellet alignment, which increases your accuracy, and gives you a 30% weak point damage bonus, but reduces the rate of fire by a little bit.
I think it's a 3.
I think, yeah, I definitely agree. Yeah,
it gives good. It does what it's supposed to do well. Its negatives are significant. It's a very balanced overclock.
It's very balanced. Actually, it's actually well, no, obviously it's balanced, but I actually agree in the sense that it's very balanced, but it feels balanced. Where the penalty is actually very noticeable, but it actually feels right with the strengths. And even though there's 2 strengths and only 1 penalty, it works out. And actually, it's one of the most balanced feeling overclocks in my opinion. It's pretty good. It's like a really optimized balanced overclock. I almost said optimal. Anyway, I think this is a strong 3, and there's really no other direction it leans. It just sits solidly in 3.
Yeah, I think another way of seeing 3 is if they made a change to it, I'd be very confused, right? Like, I don't see any good reason why they should touch it. It's in a very healthy state.
I might say the same about Psychical Overload, which is an unstable, gives us +1 damage per pellet, +2 rate of fire, but it also increases our reload time slightly and increases our spread by quite a bit. This is like I think this is one of the best, like, purely like stat unstable overclocks, purely stat changing unstable overclocks. But it's not like always a great pick, and especially not a great pick for everyone. Which is why I was going to say 3.
Number 3.
Yeah, I think it is actually.
And I think it's just this is what makes it feel weird. Is that it's not that this is like a middle strength. It is just that its strengths and its weaknesses are equal. If you pick it, you know it's not going to carry you through it. You have to work with it a little bit. Like it's just a healthy overclock.
It comes off as quite balanced. Which it is, that's why I'm giving it 3, but it comes off as a balanced overclock because of how equal I think the 2 sides of it are. Again. So that's a very comfortable 3. Clearly we both feel a 3.
This, on the other hand...
Mini shells!
I don't have a maximum amount of things, so I'll just get I think this is a 4.
Same!
And I think this is because of turret whip.
Okay, I agree. Plus, okay, and this is why Car was useful. This, actually, first of all, it makes this mod amazing, because this is how you get the most damage possible with the Warthog. This is the most total damage that you can possibly get.
Right.
With using mini shells, and you don't have to take more ammo because you know if you do take mini shells and you take more ammo, it does feel significantly weaker than normal. Which is why it's sort of hard to say it's like optimal, right? Because it's not that universal. That's the thing. Its usefulness, but it does allow. I don't know. It's very difficult to say it's like optimal, isn't it? Though. When you consider certain things like removing the stun and like lowering the damage that much.
I think it is very strong, but I think it's a little bit too strong. In that it has access to almost too many builds and is almost too useful. In that, obviously the maximum amount of damage is on there. That paired with turret whip is like a giga infinite. Like you're never really going to run out of ammo like on the shotgun, that kind of build. Plus, it has a feature that I'm sure you're in love with at the very least, and I'm sure other people will appreciate the lack of stun. Therefore, enabling you to just go ham on a Praetorian's ass.
Without some people don't quite get that. Actually, why removing stun isn't always a bad thing. The thing that stun is best for is disrupting Macteras, I would say, because they're always attempting ranged attacks, and they also have quite big of his weak points, so they're quite easy to stun and therefore interrupt. But if you do, so this is what makes it difficult, because stun is a significant downside, but even that actually has an upside.
Yeah.
Which is so I personally actually have no idea where to place it.
Well, I think considering you just
what
said
are you going to say now? Because you said 4 at the beginning, but what would you say?
Yeah. Well, you just said one of its negatives in that it doesn't have a stun can also be considered a positive. I think you can't really say that it's as balanced as the other ones when a negative can be a positive.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe we should point something out then, because I feel like obviously 5 is like too strong, but I also think
no,
4...
I don't think it's by any means a 5.
Well, well, hold on, because this is something we're going to have to allow ourselves to do in this.
Pick, is it?
No, but neither are some of the other 5s you're going to get to in this series when you think about it. So that's why we changed it from must pick to too strong,
I guess.
And this is something we're going to have to allow ourselves to do in this video specifically. I sort of think of 4 as also probably more well-rounded than a 5, right? And I don't know if mini shells is actually that well-rounded. As in, I'm just a bit uncomfortable with this one in terms of. Well, I don't have an instinct really.
As it stands, isn't the only other 4 the ammo one?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Do you think they're about the same in their kind of just level of strength and like healthiness for the game?
I think mini shells is actually slightly better, if not quite a bit better, but it obviously has some significant penalties that a lot of people will notice and suffer from that they wouldn't if they used that. Yeah. So they probably equal out.
I think mini shells pays you more. Like you reach a higher tier of strength, but you do have to try for it more than the green one, like the clean one. So I think it is strong, quite strong, but comes at a bit of difficulty in achieving it. And obviously, the damage, and I don't know. I think it is reasonably healthy. I think I don't want to put it in 5 because it really doesn't feel like the 5s I have in my mind.
No, right? I actually agree with you on that. Yeah, so it's not going to be a 5.
No, I think a 4 is it's fine. It's strong, but I don't think it's unhealthy strong. But then again, I don't think the Warthog is capable of being unhealthy.
The Warthog's a very healthy weapon, actually. Yeah. And I think it might have a bit of a problem with the ammo overclock, like the ammo mods and overclocks being 4s. That seems to be a consistent thing.
Yeah,
that is probably the only thing. That's one of the things that we would note, though, right? Because even if 4 is okay, we would still note that. Really, it's only the ammo stuff that's getting 4s, and then you could move some things around.
If you pulled ammo from the mod and those 2 overclocks into the main gun, they would all go down to like a 3, maybe a bit lower.
Because they did that.
To balance that.
They did that before. Actually, no, they didn't. Sorry, they didn't. What they did is they moved ammo from both mini shells and light magazines into the upgrade.
Right.
Which is why they should probably just move some from there into the base weapon.
Yeah, but because but I think I don't know. It's interesting. This is an insight that we get into because we do this. This is inherently already exposed a bit of value of doing this, like as an exercise. But yeah, I think that I'm happy with that. Are you going to?
All right, I'll show people. Yeah, look at that, guys.
Final score. And I think if we wanted to, we could like average it out, right? And like it would be able to actually like the closer to 3 it gets to, like the more healthy the gun is. But I don't think we'll do that yet. At the very least, we might do that if this series continues, which I would be up. Even if we don't continue this as a series, I would be down to just do this, Harry.
I don't see why I don't see why we wouldn't record it though.
Exactly, yeah.
And I am thinking an epilogue would make sense of some kind where we would sort of go over certain things and just view it and like get the average, like the weapon rating.
And maybe we could round it up to like a character rating as well. See who's like the most balanced character, in our opinion. That could be interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of cool putting these kind of things into numbers. And obviously this is technically just putting our opinions into numbers. I feel like with it being so specified down onto a single mod and like overclock that it's hard to really like be too opinionated on it. But yeah, all right.
But we should actually move on to the next weapon.
How long did that take us?
Well, hold on, because so the Warthog didn't take us 35 minutes, but we are at 35 minutes.
Okay.
The next installments of this series will be shorter. Okay.
Yeah.
I want to point that out.
Have to do the explanation at the beginning, so
even that was longer than I'd like to spend on a single weapon. Even obviously, the explanation though was the main thing. So it might not actually. We can sort of look at it, and maybe we didn't actually spend too long on the Warthog. Maybe I don't know. Either way, we should move on to the next weapon. Our favourite little electric shitlord, the Stubbo, the Stubbolini. Captain.
Well, this should hopefully pay off, because we might be able to find out why we don't like the Stubby.
Well, I do.
All right, then we'll see.
Maybe I can find out why it's bad, though.
Or like convince others of it, and maybe ghost ship.
Yeah. Okay. Tier 1. +2 direct damage. You would immediately be like, oh, that's just a 3, isn't it? And it could be. But tier 1 is quite specific, because tier 1 has this.
The issue is that I think that is a 5. In that it is almost a must pick for so many of its builds. Because that's like the only one that increases the chance, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. And turret arc and EM turret discharge. No. Yes. Both of the ones where you shoot turrets. Both of them rely on this mod.
Yeah.
To be used reliably. Not to mention any other electric build you use relies on this mod. So that leaves very few other builds that you would be able to pick the other options reasonably, and not feel the lack of this mod. And obviously, I am gunning for a 5, but I'd be more than happy for a 4. But I think it's definitely one of those two.
Do you know what? I'm going to say, yeah, absolutely. Don't worry about that. 4 though, because there are builds where it's not essential, basically. Like a very, as in, it's sort of like the builds that the Stubby isn't really meant for, I suppose. But if you just want to go for solid DPS, like generalist SMG, you wouldn't take that. You would take damage or ammo. You would spec into damage and ammo. You would still take See, we'll get to that. Because this is the 4, all right?
All right.
This is the 4.
As far as electric is concerned, though, right?
I think it is very, very reasonable in the case of the Stubby, where it should probably have a higher base electrocution chance. Maybe even as simple as this goes down to 20 and the base one goes up to 30. That might do enough, even. That, yeah. But yeah, okay. So and then cool. Maybe honestly we could combine the rest of tier 1 and tier 3, because they're exactly the same. Plus 2 damage, plus 120 max ammo. And they probably all just freeze. I don't know if you feel any differently. Yeah. I don't know if
I don't know. I've never really. I've not using Stubby enough to, and when I have used it, I've had to use the percentage chance, because I've never really tried using it as a default one.
The only thing I'd make an argument for, I would actually make an argument for this one being a 2 though, because taking both direct damage mods is a bad idea, and this also exists in the tier with that.
Right. I think that's reasonable.
So if we were say, okay, if we went for tier 1, if we said 2, 4, 3, would that make sense to you?
Yeah, that seems fair. Yeah.
All right, and I'll just put that in, and then we'll get to tier 3, but it will be very quick. We basically already established what it is. Oh, I keep accidentally putting in 5 instead of 4. Okay, tier 2. Plus 10 magazine size.
Right.
Brilliant.
That doesn't feel much, and I can tell by the sound of your voice that
I'm going to immediately jump to a 2. Because this is fine, especially because it's a utility tier. It's not competing with damage or electrocution, right? But it's not useful for any given build. And so I'm going to go for 2. Because if we look at something like recoil dampener, this is good for basically every good build on the Stubby.
Yeah.
But not like insanely. It really alleviates what EM Refire booster adds, like in terms of penalties, and it makes these 2 more consistent. in my opinion. I actually like using it with these because it means you're just more accurate, basically.
Yeah,
and you can.
I mean, I
accurately hit them.
find the recoil on the Stubby one of the main reasons why I can't use it.
But I also, Tyler, I also think its base rate of fire is actually quite low. So we have this, which adds +3 rate of fire, which helps it in general. Is really nice on anything that relies on electrocution chance as well. Although doubling down with it in Refi Booster is quite intense. So but I don't think it's insane either. My position on this tier would actually be 2, 3, and 3.
I think that's fair, yeah. I mean, I can't see a universe where any of those types... Oh, wait. Ammo capacity, recoil, and, like, you know, that kind of stuff will ever reach, like, 4 or 5. I can't see a universe where they become that strong. But, yeah, so that seems fair.
Yeah. Cool. Tier 3, let's just whisk it away. It's just +2 direct damage and +120 max ammo. And... they're pretty much equal. The damage results in less total damage, but people always like more damage. And because we gave the one in tier 1 2, I think in this case where it's just these two side by side, it's just an immediate 3 and 3 for me.
Yeah.
I don't feel strongly about the tier, but I don't think it represents a problem either. It could be more interesting, but there's nothing wrong with it. So that's fine. Tier 4 is probably going to end up being balanced, but it is actually quite interesting. So we got plus 30% weak point bonus.
So that's clearly for the default Stubby build.
Yep, just feels very solid because it does help increase its damage against everything.
Yeah.
You know? So, we'll immediately, at least for free. Conductive bullets. Plus 30% direct damage dealt to enemies being electrocuted. IFG, I guess, but Engineer doesn't have IFGs. So it's actually the same damage bonus, and it is also plus 30% direct damage, because oftentimes elemental damage bonuses take the form of the damage type. If this made it deal electric type damage, then it would be suboptimal, because that means it wouldn't actually help against weak points. But in terms of like the actual bigger enemies, conductive bullets doesn't help. Conductive bullets just makes you sort of better in sort of when you're using like a crowd control build. You know, you've got like increased electrocution chance and electric arc. You might be using one of the turret ones, and it's just going to make you deal more damage against everything without having to really think about it. But this is like a consistent damage increase against everything if you hit weak points, but it's still useful against everything. So that sounds actually fairly equal to me. Though that's a thing.
I think it is build dependent, right? I think there are more builds that would make you kind of use the one on the right. There are more builds.
But I rarely use it. I find it very difficult to think that's a better choice, even if I'm going for like crowd control.
Yeah, it's fair. I think it's sitting around around a 3 each. They're both kind of going for the same thing of dealing 30% more damage, right? But just it depends. I guess in how easy you think it is to do either of those things.
Well, I find it very consistently useful, even though I use EMB Fire Booster, for example.
Yeah.
As in, I'm leaning towards this being just a better pick, because I would actually like to see this be better or changed in some way. Personally. And I know you don't feel very strongly, I assume.
Well, I don't know. I think it's just the fact that they both do the exact same amount of damage, well, more damage to a... Well, it's not really the case, though, is it? 30% weak point bonus. Is that going to give you more damage than 30% more damage?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would like to see this be something like you can let's like electrocute all types of enemies or something like that. That's what I'd rather this be, personally. The thing is, actually comparing the two, 3 and 3 is more reasonable. But I would personally like to see a change. But that might just be a personal note. That might just be a personal note. We might just say 3 and 3.
Even then, though, it would go down to what, 2? And you couldn't argue that...
No. This would say at 3. I would just potentially put that to a 4, but I don't know if I feel strongly enough. So I think we'll just settle for 3 and 3.
Yeah.
Sounds fine. Sounds. What doesn't sound fine, or isn't okay, and this is going to have to be comparative, as in we're just going to have to immediately move on from plus 20 magazine size, right? Because we need to explain the problem here, which is electric arc. That's basically
5, right?
25% chance every time that you electrocute or would electrocute, it creates an electric AoE that electrocutes everything around it in that radius, 2.75 meters. In this tier is absolutely a 5. And yes, sorry, it is a 5. I was thinking, it's not the strongest thing in the world, but then if you break it down even slightly, you realise there is never a situation where this is ever a better idea, or ever not a worse idea, I should say. And I don't know what that makes that.
It's just that
obviously it's a 2, right?
It really comes. All right. So first of all, right, that essentially gives you 20 more ammo. Right?
It does. That is true.
Best case scenario, as far as like ammo damage, like the way I look at it is like total damage, right?
Also, by the way, in a gun that starts with 20, in a gun that starts with 30 magazine size plus 20, that's a significant amount of time added to how long you can keep firing without to reload.
Yeah. Like it is a very substantial magazine size, right? What's the other one? Is it also 20 or
that one's 10? They did 10. Bump it up, They did bump it up.
Clearly, they are trying to make it a tier 5 level one,
but it's not a tier 5.
It just can't compare to the amount of free damage you're gonna get from turret arc, right?
Electric arc.
No, electric arc. Yeah, I'm used to more saying turret arc more often. Yeah, that is just gonna be so much.
You're never gonna catch me using that. Doesn't matter what I'm trying to do with the stubby. This just adds to it. It doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. It just doesn't.
Obviously, it gets better if you pick the tier 1 one, but it's still usable otherwise. It's just.
But this is a case where now 2 and 5 is where my head's at.
I don't think the other ones are 1. Like it clearly recognised that it was a tier 5 and stepped it up a level. And
but
the percentage I
want to say I want any potential balancing done with this to be done on a tier basis, as in I just want to see another, because obviously I think in comparison to other weapons, electric arc is not like too strong because the stubby isn't too strong. I want to see an upgrade that actually equals it. Maybe slightly nerf electric arc, slightly, but I'd rather see something that equals it, and that would make them both like freeze or something. That's how I see this tier. Specific. It's quite specific. I don't think something like this probably won't come up again. But
I think it'd be pretty hard to make electric arc ever a 3, considering how much free AoE damage it has on a weapon that doesn't often just do that on its own, right? You have to kind of rely on the turrets to do it. But
if they made this like a ricochet instead.
Yeah, something like that, I guess.
Because that still plays with direct damage, but that's how you would do it. Sorry. Anyway, either way, 2 and 5. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. 2 and 5. I am being held. No, I won't do any silly voices. Overclocks though.
There's a barrel vision first.
Barrel vision first. Harry won't do silly voices. Okay. Let's get it. Super slim rounds. Plus 5 magazine size times 0.8 base spread.
That's like a 2 at least, right?
I just want to go with 2. Let's just go with 2, man. I can't bother to say anything else about it.
Is there ever a point in time where you would use this?
No.
1.
What?
1. If it is never in any point of time ever going to be picked, it's a 1.
Well, that might be the truth for stubby users. But, and I guess stubby users are the only people who use the stubby. But people still try it, and everything, all the balanced and unstables have significant drawbacks where they might just want to try something like well-oiled machine. All right, that's going to be a 1. But well-oiled machine, plus 2 rate fire, minus 0.2 reload time. Not that far off the refire booster. It's actually, and it's also a clean. It has no penalties. It's not bad. Cool.
3?
No.
No?
Because you gave this a 1, right?
Yeah, because you would never pick that, right? It is not at any point in time worth picking.
You could pick this, but you would only pick it if you're really like boring and bad at the game.
Wait,
Right?
I'm those things.
Yeah, but you don't use it, do you?
I don't use Stubby. So,
But when you
yeah.
do, use turret arc. Use turret.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm sorry. I might have to. It's not weak, but this is the thing about overclocks, where it's a slightly different scenario. Remember, one is unusable.
Right.
2 and 2, they might be the same. And also, I'm gonna put in like we do it by category, so I'll put in the cleans at 2 and 2 because this is Stubby's problem. The cleans don't make any headway for themselves. They don't get ahead of the rest in any way. So we have EM Refire Booster, +2 electric damage per bullet. So you do gain damage, but it's a type of damage that you don't gain weak point bonuses from. Yeah, it's not flat. So, and things that resist electricity will like basically not be affected by it. Certain things, but you also do get +4 rate of fire, which is a lot. And you do get more damage as well for times 1.5 base spread, which is a lot. It's very hard to use at really long range, but if you tap fire it, you can still hit things consistently at long range, like stationary enemies, and it's just great at mid to short range. This is an easy 4. This is
Yeah, I think that the base spread, like going down, like the only negative being a slight difficulty in hitting is that's not enough to really make it balanced, really, is it? like the amount of more damage you're gonna gain in a shorter amount of time, the base spread doesn't equal that out. So
yeah,
4.
It's an easy 4, but I just want to point out that obviously, well, we know that 4 isn't a problem. But EM Refire Booster is not something that I would ever want to see nerfed. I'd rather see the cleans more up to scratch. But maybe this one too. Lightweight rounds is a very awkward one. Plus 180 max ammo, with small penalty to the direct damage and rate of fire. So I view lightweight rounds as for a sort of like generic crowd clearing build, where you take increased electrocution chance and electric arc, but you don't have to think about fancy shit. But it still feels really weak.
Yeah, I mean it would. like taking away the damage and slowing down the fire rate even more so. Things are gonna get to you and kill you before they die, right? Like it's got one of those issues where I imagine you've got a lot of ammo, but you're just never gonna output it at a quick enough speed for it to be valuable, right?
Yeah, pretty much. And taking more damage on it doesn't make a lot of sense because it still won't match sort of the damage you can get with the Refire Booster and like the DPS you can get with the Refire Booster. It's never going to feel worthwhile because of how much more DPS. That might just be the better term to use. It's very difficult to. I don't actually have an instinct for this aside from 2 or 3, but 3 doesn't sound quite right either, does it?
Do you think it's a good overclock that like balances itself out with a good variety of builds?
I would the only reason why I would say it doesn't is the Stubby fault itself, not necessarily the overclock. And I am thinking we might say 2 on this, but this one's probably a 3.
Yeah.
I feel like putting that in 2 doesn't make much sense. Right? There's nothing wrong with it.
All right then.
So I'm gonna say that this is 2, but we're gonna bring this up to a 3. All right. So our okay, cool. 2. Well-oiled machine can be a 3 because there's nothing wrong with it, but it is outperformed. But all right, the unstables. Here we go. Turret arc. I don't know how to explain turret arc. You can read that description if you like. We do lose a lot of max ammo and rate of fire. Not a lot of rate of fire, I should say, but we lose a lot of ammo. We lose some rate of fire. I guess it doesn't actually make the Stubby weaker, but considering how much ammo you're losing, it's not like you're going to be using this for direct damage anyway. And you should probably be taking increased electrocution chances as well. Now, the thing that turret arc produces, the arc itself, is actually very powerful. but it is not in any way optimal to use.
Yeah.
And that's where my brain jumps to, which is suboptimal. But is it actually popular though? Which is what I want to know, right?
It's definitely used, I think. Like when people that use Stubby, you will bump into a turret arc user like pretty regularly, I imagine. But like every 5 in 10 people will be having turret arc on them. Stubby users, obviously.
5 in 10, half of them.
No, every 1 in 5 and 10 to 10. Like
every 1
there, like,
in 7.5 people. Everyone.
Yeah, but obviously you can't have half a person. Although if you did, he would likely be a Stubby user because he was missing his head.
Okay. Cool. Turret arc. What's your rating? I said 2. I think I believe 2.
I think 2. It could definitely use with a bit of quality of life increase.
It's very gimmicky.
I think honestly, make the electric. If you work, just make it like so much better on the gun, but make the turret arc like actually kind of weaker. To be honest.
Well, see, Tyler, I want to do this right now. My proposed rework for turret arc is to not actually get rid of the turret part. Maybe actually weaken the effect in general even, but I want to have the effect between enemies because electric arc isn't actually like a tether of electricity between enemies. It's just like an electric AoE that springs from an enemy. You're not connecting them with the... I want to be able to connect enemies with the turret arc together.
Yeah.
And that would be really insane. You'd have to introduce more penalties, but I want to see that. Because it's already held... It's held back by the fact it's a gimmick. But if we just ramp the gimmick up, turn the gimmick up to 11, then suddenly it becomes good. Because it's never not going to be gimmicky. It would even need to just be... Because it's, you know, just restricting it to the turrets. I think restricting but restricting it to the turrets is always going to hold it back. So you need to do more of it than that, in my opinion, partially because of the next one. So that's the 2. But turret EM discharge is something else entirely. And basically, I assume most people know, but you just hit it. You electrocute a turret, I should say. Or a hit that electrocutes it would produce an explosion from the turret, which isn't the most insanely strong, but it's 60 electric damage in a 5-meter radius, which is quite big, and it also electrocute and apply fear. And it's very cheap to do. It's very efficient to do.
Doesn't actually take away any ammo either, does it?
Doesn't take away ammo. It takes away 5 ammo. It takes away small direct damage and magazine size. Well, it's not a tiny amount of direct damage to lose, but in this case, it's not a big problem. Turret EM discharge is very strong. It's a very, very strong effect, and it's a very efficient effect. Is it overpowered? The numbers would probably suggest that it is, but same goes for turret whip. In my opinion, when it comes to the Stubby, I think both the EM ones are kind of at the top, but they're also kind of equal. They're just the 2 sides of the Stubby.
Do you think the awkwardness of turret M discharge is matched to its strength, at least more than turret arc?
Absolutely more than turret arc. Not always. It is quite frustrating, especially damaging yourself with it. But it's easier to use than turret arc, and it tends to come off as stronger than turret arc as well. Yeah. I am very adamant that this is a 4. I think I don't like it as much, but I'm adamant that it's equal to EM Refire Booster as sort of the 2 best versions of the Stubby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like it, but I can acknowledge it. Yeah.
I don't particularly like it either, to be honest. Yeah. But I think it's a lot better than turret arc. It's the peak of this side of the Stubby. EM Refire is the peak of its SMG nature. EM Discharge is the peak of its whatever else it's supposed to be.
Yeah, just damage and AoE and other stuff. You abandon the fun part of the gun, and you'll get the result of this.
Yeah, and here are the results. Wow. Yeah. So there's almost immediately. I think the biggest disparity for the Stubby it exists in the overclocks and tier 5. We could very easy to say that.
Yeah, which is fair considering that part is like the most important part. But I don't know. It's a very weird gun in that I don't know. It's so fucking annoying to like think about what it is and what it wants to be.
Whether or not it's actually good or not.
It is like it's a driller primary mixed with a scout primary, and you put them together, and they have no. And it's like a yin yang. They're trying to fight each other constantly and like consume the other, and neither really comes out on top. And it's just I don't know. It's a very weird weapon,
Woo!
but yeah. Like, moving on.
Yeah. Moving on to our favorite man. Something that definitely understands its identity as an engineer primary. It is absolutely certainly that. It couldn't be anything else. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. The smart rifle, I think it's a weird thing to say, but honestly, more so than the Warthog, the smart rifle it couldn't be anything other than engineer primary.
Yeah,
I don't think. If it wasn't smart, it could have been a scout primary, but it's the smart rifle. But anyway, here it is. It's also got more mods than the others. Wow. Let's get down to business. Tier 1. Plus 6 direct damage. Sounds like a lot. I don't think there's really any. No. Plus 72 max ammo. Yes. Yes. Always.
I mean, is there even an ammo mod? There is a little one, right? No.
Like that overclock, you mean?
Oh, not overclock. Yeah.
No. There's also no direct damage overclock either. It's just like okay, so which one's it gonna be? Almost always max ammo. I don't think this hits any meaningful breakpoints, and it just decreases the overall amount of usable ammo. It already one-shot swarmers, which is something it is significant for the smart rifle. So which means you're more wasteful if you use it on swarmers. But I don't think it really changes any of the breakpoints. In fact, it makes most builds feel worse. But it is still plus 6 direct damage. This is just always a better choice, which lines up to me as probably just 2 and 4. That's how I see it. It's not actually that this is an insane amount of ammo to add, though. That's the only thing.
It's just the only one, though, right?
Does that mean it's a 4 though? Does it?
Well, like.
Oh, sorry. It's always in this tier. It's always the optimal pick. Yeah. It is the optimal pick. There's no build that it makes sense to take damage on. It's not always a terrible idea, but there's no build for it, certainly. This just helps every build. This doesn't help anyone. So that's why I'm saying 2 and 4.
Alright.
Yeah?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, cool.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. It's what it is.
It is what it is. Tier 2. Macro lens. 0.2 times 0.2 acquire lock threshold times 2 lock on range. One of those might sound like a negative to some people, which is the first one, which is like much tighter field, much tighter lock on field.
Yeah,
they're wrong.
Well, that's what it is.
Macro lens to me is easily the best pick in this tier.
Yeah, but you can't deny that the this tighter thing was supposed to be negative.
Nah, it's not exclusively. Definitely not exclusively. It means you'll have a lot more control. You're less likely to tag multiple targets, which you don't always want to do. In fact, the two best builds for the smart rifle rely on macro lens. Make them work.
But they wouldn't have put 2 of the best things on the same mod, right? They were just thinking we double the range, but we half the width. That was what they were thinking.
It's
right?
not. I don't quite think it's meant to be as strong as it is. It's probably going to end up being a 4. But let's look at the others. Which I don't really know much about. So this is plus 1.3 degrees acquire lock threshold, and a bigger lose lock threshold, which is very difficult to. I don't. This one just makes it wider, so it's a wider lens, and you can hold like enemies wider, like further away from the lens as well, like further away from the crosshair. Which immediately, I guess, probably comes across as a free, and it might be. It's pretty simple, but unfortunately, it does compete with zoom lens because the base like lens width is already pretty decent, and then zoom lens doesn't make it any tighter. It just adds 10 meters.
Yeah.
Which is a free.
It is a very weird selection of overclocks. Not mods. It's a bit like like the wave cookers ones, except both of his are like alternate firing modes. But this one, it's just all.
Well, this is all dedicated to the alternate firing mode.
Yeah, but everything is in this bloody thing.
Yes. Well, see, the thing is, this is a free in regards to like how the smart rifle is meant to be used, and that is that you like paint as many targets as you can. But that's never been the best way to use it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Really, in any case.
So
personally, I think that's a 2. I think that's definitely a 3 because it's just plus 10 range and that's it. It doesn't. And you still have the base decently wide lens. That's 2 and that's 3. This is troubling me because I think in terms of strength it is a 4. I think it's optimal most of the time. It's definitely not overpowered. But obviously you're right in that part of it is meant to be a bit of a penalty.
Yeah.
But I just see it sort of the thing that makes it
comes up as not that.
Yeah, I'm struggling to say that it's not optimal, other than it doesn't. I guess it probably just doesn't suit everyone. That's it. But I feel like most people use a smart rifle understand that this is what you're meant to use, because painting a lot of targets at the same time is generally not beneficial to a build.
Do you actually think that for all the best builds on the smart rifle, or just the smart rifle in general, that is a must pick?
Not the smart rifle in general.
Are there overclocks or builds that would lean towards the other ones? And are those builds good?
Those builds aren't good. Those builds
Yeah. So, do all of the best builds require micro lens?
I don't know. Because I feel like I might not know about some of the best builds.
Right? Because I'm thinking about some of the definite 5s in the future, and the gun and the best builds on a gun, or its gun generally, just relies on a mod to like exist in a good state. Would you say the micro lens is that?
Oh my god. I don't ever. Okay. So hold on. Personally, okay, so I'll give my the personal situation is that I don't have any build that doesn't use it.
Yeah,
I'm always using it.
Do you know / do you think that it's kind of the same for everyone else?
I would assume so, because when I think about it objectively, I don't think any of the top tier builds would use the other mods. I just want to point out this is between a 3 and a 4, so at least we're working with that. Okay, but
we're not.
What do you mean?
I'm between a 4 and a 5.
All right, let's go with 4 then. Just fuck it. Let's just get on with this. Let's go with 4. 4, 2, and 3. So I don't feel comfortable putting 5 because that doesn't seem objective. Because even whatever. Fine, we've done it. We've done tier 2. Okay. Tier 2. Tier 3, however, might be more problematic. 1, electrochemical rounds. Plus 20% damage to electrified and burning targets. Incredible. Obviously it's not always good, but you are engineer.
Yeah.
And obviously you do have that. So, but obviously we need to look at the others actually before we can give a rating. I think. It's not lower than 3. Okay, it's not lower than 3. 2, smart targeting software. I forgot about this one. I forgot. Lock-on now prioritizes low health enemies and will only place as many locks on the enemy as are required to kill it. 1.
Yeah.
This guy I don't think anyone uses this.
Anyone that uses the smart rifle would use it. Because to be honest with you, I often do.
What?
What? It saves me a lot of time and effort.
Smart targeting software basically prevents you from actually getting use out of the tier 5 mods.
Yeah.
And the smart rifle is better as a single target damage dealer than anything else. And, okay, I'm going to have to bring up explosive chemical rounds. Targets with 3 or more locks on them will have an explosion. You need to get the 3 locks. Smart targeting can even stop that from happening sometimes.
Yeah, definitely a one there.
It is useless and it has pretty obvious negatives, and I can't really point to many positives. I think if we're going to pick a one, it's going to be smart targeting software. Actually, it might not be the only one on the smart rifle. It might not be.
Yeah. Plus, if you think about it, like already, like you are gaining nothing from that when you could be gaining a lot of like free damage with the other one.
We also super blow through rounds. Plus 3 penetration. It's a lot.
I do not get.
It's a lot. It's a lot because it's useless on the smart rifle. It's a lot. That's why it's plus 3.
Why they would put it on there? I like. It's
dear.
such a weird. Like so much effort to use, right? Like you would have to like spend so long and target just the right enemies and really control it to just angle like the bullet right. Like,
so we discussed how this technically isn't always useful, but it's very hard for it not to be because you're an engineer. Like, it's like you're not troubling yourself by taking either electrocution on this or fire or electrocution on your secondary. Those are probably going to be some of the best builds for your secondary anyway. So this to me,
Reach could do both. By the way.
So obviously, so we got 1 and 2. I think. Yeah, we got 1 and 2 here.
And then
4.
I think there's still a 3. I think that's a
3.
perfectly reasonable thing. It just looks so much better compared to the other 2.
I actually think it is quite reasonable. Well, Tyler, the truth. No, Tyler. The truth is, it should probably be split in 2, and that should be like what tier 3 is. That's kind of the truth of it. That's why I'm leaning more towards 4.
Yeah, but I guess. I mean, it's fine, but like, I still don't think anything should inherently change about it.
Yeah, I might agree with 3 actually, because I want to point out this isn't the problem with this tier. It's the other 2 are the problem.
If this wasn't the smart rifle, and that was competing against the blow through rounds, I don't think we would be having this debate. Like, if the blow through rounds actually worked normally, it would be like an equal thing, and that would be an easy 3. But like, because it is the only real simple flat damage, not flat, it's a simple damage gain in that tier. Like, no matter what, really, like, you're gonna likely have one of those 2 things, and even if you don't, your teammates might. The environment might fucking help you if you're the crystalline or magma core, right? Like, it's gonna help you far more than the smart one's going to help you, since apparently it's literally going to inconvenience you, or the blow through rounds, which might occasionally benefit things if you don't specifically.
Honestly, personally, this does come off as slightly lazy, because it's just like, just make it plus 3 because we know it's not actually useful on the smart rifle. Yeah. We know it doesn't make sense, so let's just make it a good, like a strong penetration mod. So, okay, so I think I'm exactly on board with you. And if I am, does that mean we're looking at 3, 1, and 2?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if it was actually competing against other reasonable ones, it would be an easy 3. But because it's just so much better than the other options, it looks like a 4.
Yeah, because obviously, as we know, 4 isn't a problem, but I want to make clear that this mod isn't the problem with this tier. It's the other 2, not specifically smart targeting. I think this tier is a bit fucked. It's just because the others just aren't equal to this, and that's how it should be changed to be. But that's tier 3. Tier 4 going to be a lot easier. Shutter speed sensor times 0.85 lock-on time, which is plus 15% lock-on speed, I think. And then we also have plus 6 max number of lock-ons. Both of these are really good because this is just, you're not taking the extra ones, which means you theoretically have less locks to acquire, and you acquire them even faster, which is good for a lot of builds, particularly armor break module and executioner. And but it's also just good in general if you're building it for single target damage, or you're using it for that. And this is just good for the smart rifle in general. I think these are actually fairly equal. My brain much more prefers this pretty much all the time. But I think for the smart rifle itself, I think these are fairly equal.
Yeah, I mean, I think they both. It's just a pretty reasonable. It's like the extended ammo like capacity or reload speed. It's just like, which do you prefer?
This is
really
basically rate of fire. This is like magazine size. That's how the smart rifle does things.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah. And in this case, I'm trying to hold back because I do think this is better, but not in a way that is
having more locks isn't exactly the best thing in the world for some of the things, right? Like, if you're using executioner, would you rather not have more locks, right?
Always, no matter what.
Yeah.
The executioner. Actually, okay, sorry.
But with Neurolasso, you would prefer more locks.
But that's Neurolasso. I'm leaning towards shutter speed sensor being optimal, actually, because it's the only pick for executioner. It makes this just way easier to produce, and that's good for literally every build. Explosive chemical round, you want to do it as quickly as you can, which just lock on speed is for that. Armor break module only applies on full lock. This already adds more lock-ons, so you might want faster lock-on speed to get to those increased number of locks quicker.
Yeah.
But it's nothing wrong with adding more locks in general. I am personally going to say 4 and 3.
Yeah, that sounds about right. From the very little I know, that does sound about right.
Even if it's supposed to be objective, but even slightly objectively, I just don't. Objectively, I do think this one is better. So we got to make that difference clear. That's what that comes down to. But still, it's not bad. It's not the part. With the smart rifle, that tier is not the problem. But tier 5 is not that problematic either. Electric generator mod. Targets with 3 or more locks are electrocuted by the first locked on bullet damage them, which is a significant piece of information because it does mean you could get a single instance of electrocution with every single bullet if you switched away quick enough. So, electric generator mod is really, really strong. It lets you pretty much consistently 3-shot grunts, which is a really significant breakpoint. Otherwise, you'd always have to use 4 or 5 shots on them. Same with, like, I think acid spitters, it works for, like, it helps you 4-shot them instead of 5-shot them. It changes a lot of breakpoints, and it does add electrocution that can help you get more damage against certain bigger targets. Not all of them, but certain things like Wardens and Praetorians. It's really It's, like, really strong and really easy to use. It's not complete. But it doesn't blow everything else out of the water. I'm leaning towards the 4, but obviously, I'm going to say my rating is 4, but we're going to discuss
combined with the tier 3.
Yeah. But
that more single target.
It's not the only one that does that. It's also the only pick that makes sense for explosive chemical rounds. Let's point that out.
Yeah, I run both of them
because you're never going to go for full locks and explosive chemical rounds, and. Anyway, okay, unstable lock mechanism. Full lock adds 20% more direct damage to all shots fired during the burst, which is very strong and is the only pick for executioner as well. And it will build on top of the damage you would get against a burning target, which you should be going for fire or secondary if using the executioner. This is a really solid mod in this tier. And it works in general, and it has some quite specific great uses. And it's just very simplistic and balanced, I think, actually. Good.
Yeah.
You have a rating?
You think it's a 3?
Yeah, I think it's a 3.
All right.
In comparison, I do think this is a 4, only by frequency of uses, which is all except Executioner. this is only optimal on Executioner, but it's good in general. Which I think that doesn't make them equal. I think that makes it a 4 and 3 there. Unfortunately, fear frequency exists. Unfortunately for itself, I should say. Unfortunately, which creates I think it's a strong amount of fear. It is a strong amount of fear. You can get up to 375% fear because it's based on every lock on, but you have to reach full locks for it to activate.
Right.
Not very helpful. And here's why it's not very helpful. Because if you're going for full locks, you should be going for a damage build, right? Single target damage, which would be armor break, module, or executioner, increasing your damage at full locks. Both of them do that already. So you're going to optimize yourself for that by taking this. You're never going to take this for explosive chemical rounds because you only need 3 shots to make that happen, which makes this optimal. And explosive chemical rounds already inflicts fear.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe Neuro Lasso users use it.
I imagine you probably would actually. Like, I honestly, I think that's the only cohesive thing to put them together with.
It would be really cool if it just did, because obviously it builds up fear based on the number of locks. To me, that makes it not make sense that you have to get to full locks.
Yeah, you should be able to put that in every time.
It should just be very flexible amount of fear, and you just get maybe there's like an increased benefit at full locks. Maybe it's like a small explosion or something, a small like fear-based explosion. That would probably be a better way of doing it, and even then, then it would compete.
Where does it say that you need full lock?
Every time you release a full lock-on burst, the last bullet emits an aura of fear.
It doesn't say full lock-on. It just says lock-on. Every time you release a lock-on burst.
Okay, hold on. I think I'm gonna have to use this mod.
Clearly, completely.
Don't worry. Well, I mean, don't worry.
I still don't. Right, realistically, that's not going to change much because it is a crowd control competing against 2 incredibly strong killing.
Yes. Yes, and the crowd control, like the better crowd control overclock, has fear built into it as well.
Yeah. So
it's got to be 2. I'm still slightly on the fence about these 2, actually. You know, whether or not they are actually equal or not. I wouldn't rely on you. I wouldn't rely on you to give the final say.
Yeah. Neither of them are must picks, so neither of them can reach 5. Right? That's the fact that you're not sure about either means that they're obviously not 5. That's never going to be the case. Because there can only be like 1 5 in each tier, right? That's kind of the point of it. But yeah, they're. I mean, the electric one is always useful. Or like the electric one.
Well, it's not always useful, is it? There's a lot. You've got bosses to account for and oppressors, which is a lot of enemies and a lot of significant enemies.
They're both just good at what they do, right? And what they do, you would play into with a certain overclock and a certain build. I think they're both reasonably 3s.
I think I'd rather highlight the weak one than the strong one. As in, I think 3, 3, and 2 sounds right to me. Actually, that sounds right. Actually, and we can go with that. Yeah.
And obviously the fear one, even though you for some reason didn't realize that was how it worked. It doesn't change much at all.
Overclocks going to be weird. It's going to be very weird because it's actually not going to. Well, let's just get into it. Armor break module on full lock. Each bullet does a 1,250% armor breaking. That's a lot of armor breaking.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, seeker rounds exist. Unfortunately. So armor break module is fine, but in this case,
you would never pick it, right?
You would never pick it. It's suboptimal.
Suboptimal? Are you saying 2? Because if you would never pick it, there is no benefit to picking it, like over something else. It's a 1.
Oh my god! You know what? I'm going to go with that. I'm going to go with 1 because I want armor break module to be arrested for filler. It's guilty of filler. It's guilty of replacing the turret overclock that they couldn't get working.
Yeah.
Yes. 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 Yeah. You're right. You're right.
what? The seeker rounds ignore armor, right?
We'll get to seeker rounds.
Yeah, but the only benefit that has is for your teammates. Then, right? That's all armor break module has. And even then, it's it's not all that. So yeah,
it's not all that because you have to build up to full locks first as well.
Yeah,
it's dumb. It enforces a playstyle that doesn't really make sense from a smart rifle anyway. I guess it's just like it's for body shots, and that means you don't have to curve your bullets. Introducing every other overclock. Well, Eraser is good.
Yeah,
it's good. Solid. It's the only one that gives you a bit more ammo too. Plus 12 magazine size and increases the number of max lock-ons, which is good for all ways of using the smart rifle. That's still good for single target damage because that means you can get more DPS, you can get a bigger burst. So
it seems like you just want to use the smart rifle. It's just the clean version of that. Like, hey, I just want to use a smart rifle and it to be a bit, like, just a bit more. Like,
this is the most free there is.
Yeah.
You are a good man if you use free. If you use Eraser, I mean. What? You're a good man and you deserve good things. Because you're a pleasant man. Seeker rounds. Seeker rounds. I love seeker rounds.
I never got seeker rounds.
That's because I got news for you. That means you're gay.
I'm just using it, and I'm like, how is this helping me? I didn't notice any real benefit.
I'm going to be honest with you, Tyler. I think seeker rounds is optimal. Because I don't think it realistically has any negatives. It's like the way it feels less. It feels clunkier because you have increased reload time and slower rate of fire, but you don't lose any damage. You don't lose any ammo, and it's better in all circumstances.
If it's only positives, then obviously it's going to be a 4.
It's only positives and significant positives. It also blows arm break module out of the water. You do, and it results in more damage because you don't have to go through armor, and you can hit things like oppressors and dreadnoughts from any angle and deal the full damage you would deal. It has no real drawbacks and very, very significant, and in my opinion, also underrated positives. But which I guess makes it sound like a 5, but it's definitely not. It's not overpowered. It's not the only one I use.
The base smart rifle, right, to deal that damage.
Yeah, it doesn't actually take the smart rifle much further. It's just a really optimal pick. It's an optimal pick because it's good for anyone, for any build, really. Unlike the next two, which are still good, but so Seeker Round is an easy 4. I think. No real other way to put it. Explosive chemical rounds. Explosive chemical rounds.
Alright, I know what it does. I don't really know the.
You want to give a rating?
Alright.
Because I know the rating, I know the truth of it, and it might hurt. It might.
I mean, the fact you're saying this, do you think it's a 5?
I think it's a 2.
You think it's bad?
I think it's suboptimal for an engineer primary.
I think
on average, it's not a good idea.
I think it is the only usable way of using the smart rifle, and I think the devs agree. Because when I've seen the dev stream and them using the smart rifle, he uses explosive chemical rounds, and that's his favorite. It's just it kills better than anything else I've seen it do, and it actually lasts a substantial amount of time. Obviously, cause it's pretty impressive because it does a mod that an overclock that gets rid of direct damage and max ammo is always a pretty rough one to come back from. But the ease of use of the chemical explosions and how much so strong those explosions are, it's just kind of good. I don't think it's 2. I think it has its place, and it's just one of the 2 main builds, really.
I think it's very I guess the reason why there's going to be there's a disparity is because it is a very unstable overclock in what it's doing, right? Which actually results in it probably being balanced. I can't call this optimal because it's very.
I don't think
it's such an extreme.
strong.
It's such an extreme change.
Yeah, but it's not a change,
and it's not all. It's not all benefits.
Yeah, but it is such a. It has such a strong, solid build to it, though. Like the just like the burst, like 3 bullets, bang, and like electric, and like all other shit, right? Like it is just a very solid way of using the weapon with a very solid build behind it.
I take a real issue with first, like decreasing ammo for an overclock that makes it less economic to use against individual enemies. I just take a real issue with that, and it's sort of antithetical to what I now use the smart rifle for, because I just think it's better than I used to think it is in general. I'm gonna.
It is the best crowd ability thing that smart rifle has. Against dealing a horde with enemies, explosive chemical rounds is your best bet.
It is, but that's not. I don't need the smart rifle to do that.
Well, I don't need the smart rifle to do big guy death because I've got the secondaries for that. Hyper propellant.
Oh boy!
Generally,
explosive chemical rounds. Oh, I love having lots of ammo.
You don't need lots of ammo when you only need so little to do everything. 3 shots will kill a horde. No, not the horde, but like 5 to 6 grunts, right? And 1 shot will kill like a Praetorian.
All right. Well, okay. So hold on. What did we said something about? Was it about macro lens? Where if there's people on both sides of the fence, that makes it
balanced.
Balanced.
Yeah. I think
okay, sorry. I'm just gonna say you're not gonna fight. You're not gonna fight for it to not being free, are you? You're not gonna be like, oh no, not free.
No, 3 is what I think it should be.
Fine, let's move on then, because I don't like talking about it because I feel too strongly about it in a negative sense, and I feel wrong. I'm just gonna stop and give it a 3 because I don't mind giving it a 3. Just stop. Executioner is also a 3. It's because it's really, really, really strong, but I think it's slightly more usable than explosive chemical rounds as well, like on average, because it's something that smart rifle was meant for, which is direct damage. And execution is really good at that. And the drawbacks aren't that much. The only problem with it doesn't feel good. Well, it's not.
Minus ammo, magazine size, and I know the other ones are basically a positive though.
Well, it's not as much ammo as you lose with explosive chemical rounds. It's also
but explosive chemical rounds you can hit multiple enemies at the same time. Those bullets become a lot more valuable.
Executioner is just fantastic single target damage, and it doesn't take it doesn't take much away. I was already thinking it's probably it might be my favorite. But I was already going into it with a 3 in mind.
I want
to point out I like the idea of these 2 quite extreme overclocks being very well rounded. When put side by side as well.
Is I think Executioner might be a 4 because really you ask anyone and they often say that Executioner is the best thing on the smart rifle, right? That most people see it as the pinnacle of the gun and the best thing you can do with it. I guess, but it's just that the execution is incredibly strong, as you mentioned, and you mentioned that its negatives aren't that strong either, right? So how is that not strong? And not in a slightly unhealthy way.
I don't actually think it's unhealthy. I'd say it's close to a 3, but I think it probably is a 4. Yeah. Go with that.
I pushed both of your ideas going into those 2, like upper stage.
I'll hurt you.
You were thinking 2-3, and I pushed it up to a 3-4.
Anyway,
I don't know. I just think I think it's not like a lot of people like Chemical Explosion, and I think everyone loves Executioner. And I think it might be a bit too much, to be honest. I think it's a bit of special powder syndrome.
I don't think it's. I don't.
Fat boy
It's not.
syndrome
It's
or
not
something
close.
along those lines.
Not close to
No,
special powder in terms of like.
just more that like everyone, whenever they love the smart rifle, they just always use executioner, and that's like
I
it's like the only
started that
build
way.
people seem to tolerate.
I feel like it's because a lot of people will outgrow that as well.
Maybe.
Once they discover seeker rounds.
But yeah, I mean, one. Just get the
Neural Lasso.
fucking Is it what negatives does it even have?
Right. Well, it's got the limited lock-on duration.
I don't know what they want you to do with it. Like, because obviously those other two ones, they are well made still. They are like, this is how you use it. You fully lock on, or you lock on 3 at a time. The fuck are you meant to do with Neural Lasso? Not kill the enemies with your gun? Like, that's the most efficient way of constantly using this overclock. Is just never shoot, right?
Sure.
It's just so baffling that it needs to sort itself out. It's a 1. It's so fucking 1.
I guess the only thing is like it doesn't decrease your damage though. It doesn't, or your ammo.
But it is essentially a clean, right? Like it is essentially a clean.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't touch anything really, but it does also nerf you, right? Like you lose permanent lock on and your lock on slower. Meanwhile, the benefit of the Neural Lasso is non-existent. Right?
It doesn't really make sense as a penalty. It's like counterproductive. Well,
yeah.
Penalties are meant to actually avoid being counterproductive. In my opinion, you're not meant to hold back the strength that the overclock is giving you with the penalties. You're meant to downplay other aspects to highlight the strength, basically. But you're definitely meant to feel negatives, especially on an unstable. But they shouldn't be counterproductive.
Yeah, it's just I don't. It's just.
And
terrible.
you know what? I'm going to stop even thinking about fighting the one because I know I want it to change and I want it to be completely reworked.
Because you mentioned it doesn't reduce the damage or ammo, and that is true. But if you want to use the smart rifle, just use that clean one, right? like the clean one will do you better than fucking the Neural Lasso. It's horrific.
Yeah, what help are you providing by just slowing? It's a useless effect. Because it doesn't exist anywhere else. It genuinely doesn't. A slowdown that is just a slowdown doesn't exist anywhere else in Deep Rock. It actually doesn't. It's always like, it's always something that can disrupt an attack, like fear or stun, or it deals damage over time, or it also a pheromones acts as a disruptor. If something might keep them in place entirely, like freeze, or slow them down but also make them weaker, like IFGs, it's always something else. Not in this case.
No.
Yeah, let's not pretend. Let's not be silly boys. Neural Lasso is a 1. And there it is. Also, I just noticed how like clean these tables look. I really like them. It was really, really accented. Like the accent of the text in the top left really made it. That was a last minute addition, but it's really helped out. Oh god, I don't know what. Now we're at the end. I don't know what that means for these videos though. At the moment, I don't know how we close these.
Well, yeah. If you want to see more of this, we'll probably do it because I don't know. It's nice concreting some of these thoughts in such a specific manner.
I did also say, obviously this it was meant to be possibly shorter than some of the stuff we tend to do on Saturdays. But I did also say that we should give ourselves as much time as we need. I feel like we overstepped in some areas. But as in, it was like, if we needed to talk about something, then we should. Maybe there'll be less of that as well. I don't know. Maybe Gunner will be a lot more simplistic. maybe.
It often is.
It was because it was difficult to not actually talk over the decision that was being made because it needed to be talked over. I guess the idea is it's not going to be exclusively short. It's just going to be more flexible. We're not going to have to force ourselves to have a discussion on everything, but it's very easy for us to do that. We can't. But why should we hold ourselves back though? In certain cases, some cases. What is it you said you might need to hold me back on something? Was that in this video? And did you?
I did attempt to hold you back at one point. I don't actually remember what it was on, but I was like, that's it, it's this, moving on. But I don't think it was referring to anything in specifics, but it was more for each other.
I want to say though,
I know
okay,
I could probably if we start talking about Jella, I know I'll get carried away, right? I know that will occur. So I need as much as I want to hold you on a leash, you need to hold me.
Tyler, we could both rant about Driller. That's the problem.
I know, but it's one of the few ones where I'm confident enough in my knowledge.
You look at our opinions. The sludge pump should actually be very simple. It should just be freeze down the line. But I know it's going to be more elaborate than that.
Yeah, but I don't expect a 1 or a 5 from that thing in any part.
I'm definitely not expecting a. No, I'm not expecting a 5 or a 1. Actually, I agree with you there. I guess I should say proportionally this is actually very short because think about the number of items we went through. I don't know how many it is. It's like what's the average per weapon? It's like 12 mods and then 6 overclocks. So that's 18, which is 36, and then 54 individual pieces that we went through today of a weapon on average. Like, so it could have been a lot longer.
Obviously, it always can be with us.
But also,
I don't know. Yeah, it's just
in terms of like reviewing the actual results, that makes sense for its own video. I think eventually, instead of just making this even longer, this is like the method. This is us doing the evaluating. Or the getting the data, collecting data.
I think so far, I think the thing seems to be working. The 1 to 5, I think. I don't think we've rubbed up against a huge issue.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. That's good. It means we don't have to change it.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think. I don't know. We got some 1s and some 5s, didn't we? Like we got a bit of both.
There were some 1s and 5s in there,
which is not healthy for the game. But honestly, considering we just started, it's good that our scale does work on the all around.
It's stuff we need to know if there are 1s and 5s. What?
I don't know. I think this would leave us with some very interesting like things that we can just know. Or not inherently know factually, but just know that our opinions on this is this. Like we can pinpoint and say our issues with the Stubby is like what was it? It's the ammos is almost an issue, right? Is that it the ammo mods are almost too required on it, generally, at least in our opinion. But we try to be a bit more objective. But so how we would go about fixing it is moving the mod and maybe the overclocks into the base gun, give that some of the ammo that might equal out tier 2 and the overclocks a little bit more. But obviously there is probably some buffing involved as well. I think there was quite a few 2s.
Anyway, so like I said, what these ones supposed to be, obviously this is the pilot. If there were to ever be like a wombo cut of this, say you'd cut out a lot of this, and you especially cut out everything in the beginning, but hopefully the stuff in between is what the next ones will be, and not all the other clutter. But either way, the video is technically over, so thank you very much for watching. But
say if you want to see more of this again,
well, you might not have a choice.
We're
probably going to do it anyway. But I do want to talk about how we're going to how these are going to be put out, because it makes a lot of sense to me if they were because we did the tier list like every week, and then it was broken up like twice, I think, by like dev Q&A, or something. In this case, it's probably the optimal way of doing it would actually be to group it by class, and then we would we would do engineer, and then like the next one, and then we would do something else the next week. But I think we want to do the grenade tier list next week. And also, I don't know if that's actually the order we want to go in for this. I don't know if we want to do gunner primaries next, or if we want to do engineer secondaries.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe we'll get like engineer out of the way first. I think that's a reasonable way of going at it.
Well, I mean, maybe I should just say we'll see where we're at next Saturday, and we'll decide which one we're going to do, and then that will decide sort of the direction. Because this will probably be less in bulk than the tier list as well. I reckon, because that was quite a bit. Yeah, Lord. Oh, sorry, hold on. I was actually wrong about. I was thinking that this would only be 6 videos, which is wrong.
No,
it'd be 9, won't it?
Yeah.
It's like the tier list. Was that the tier list? No, the tier list was 7.
Yeah.
8 if you include the Womber cuts. This could be 10. Either way, it's always nice starting a new series, and then because we always finish them.
We're probably about 50%.
What haven't we finished? What haven't?
Update reviews.
Oh, well,
I didn't like them.
you don't like them. That's true. I don't know when I would bring those back, or how I would even bring them back. When Tyler's not here, that's when they get done. That's when they on a Saturday. When Tyler's not here on a Saturday, so not often. Either way, this video is over. So thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, please make sure to goodbye.